The Georgia Bulldogs have an unbelievable opportunity in front of them here in 2024 as they try to win their third national championship in 4 years.
Bama can finish off this drive with a game-winning score. Crimson side 20, Dogs 20. Alabama, chance to win it for the national championship. Tagovailoa fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
A truly memorable moment gains perspective from the others that came before.
And they are the national champions of college football.
Fueled by past triumphs.
Your BCS national champions, first national champions of the playoff era.
Heartbreaks.
That close to victory. And not a happy ending for Peyton Manning.
History.
Put him up there with the all-time greats.
The sport we love holds its heritage in the highest regard. But it never shies away from a bold leap. A new era of the college football playoff no longer waits in the wings. It has arrived. Its next moment, merging the tradition we know with the evolution we've only dreamt of. In a place where a moment can live forever. And set the stage for the next great moment to come.
"2025, the college football playoff national championship game is going to be back in Atlanta. The last time the game was in Atlanta, our Georgia Bulldogs were there. And as you look at the 2024 season, things are laying out really nicely for the Dogs to be able to make another run and another appearance in a national championship game right here in the Peach State. It is an unbelievable opportunity that lies in front of Georgia as this season begins to unfold. And with the new 12-team playoff, the Dogs have the opportunity to play not once or twice in the Dome, but 4 times this season, should they make it all the way to the national championship game. That's exactly what we're going to look at tonight on this edition of How About That Dogscast. Georgia is going to start the season in the Dome, and they very well could end the season in the Dome. How do we know this? Well, the college football playoff not long ago told us that this was a real possibility. If you just take a look here at the official 2024-2025 college football playoff schedule, you'll notice that the playoff first round is going to be held and at the end of December. So we're going to have the end of the season get out of the way. We're going to have the early bowl games get out of the way. And then right before Christmas, we're going to step up and play the first round of the college football playoff. Now, if Georgia navigates their schedule, handles their business over the course of the 2024 season, as we all hope they do, they will not be playing in that first round because they will have earned a bye, which would let them sit at home, let the first round play out. And then, if it goes the way we think it would, Georgia would play on January 1st. And the odds are really, really high that they would be in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which is held in Atlanta. That game's going to be played on January 1st, 2025. If the Dogs manage to get through their season, end up as conference champions of the SEC, they will most likely be a very, very high seed, potentially the number 1 overall seed, and they would be deferred to when it comes to choosing which game they'd like to be in. That would be, of course, in their own backyard here in Atlanta. And if they were to win that game, the semifinals would be held in a different location. But again, the Dogs probably wouldn't have to travel that far. If they're winning out and they're playing well, they're probably going to choose to go back down to the Orange Bowl for the semifinals. And if they win that game, they would make a return trip to Atlanta to play in the college football playoff national championship game here in Atlanta. Mercedes-Benz, the place that some people love, some people are terrified of. If you ask me, it has nothing to do with where you play the game. You could line up in the parking lot and play. If you're good enough to win the game, then where you play doesn't matter. That's just some more kind of superstition that has absolutely nothing to do, no bearing on the outcome of the game. But all of this is contingent upon whether or not Georgia can take advantage of this tremendous opportunity that they have. You have to imagine, as someone who likes to look at football as a 50-50 game, two teams show up, the team that plays better that day wins. That's my perspective for most games. I'm not going to act as though home field advantage doesn't matter. But Atlanta is not Athens. Mercedes-Benz is not Sanford Stadium. Now, is it much, much easier for Georgia to get to where they would need to be to play this game? Just hop on the bus and drive down to Atlanta and get the nice, cozy hotel that's literally walking distance away? Of course that's easier than having to go to, say, California and play in the Rose Bowl. Of course there are more Georgia fans that would have an opportunity to get to that game. Of course, you would have to imagine that there would be more excitement around that game for Georgia, and that Dog Nation would fill the seats with red and black, regardless of who they were playing in any round. Now, there are people out there who say that, well, that's all fine and good, but this new format is really going to put a pinch on the average football fan's pocketbook. Will they be able to come out of pocket again and again to get these tickets to go to these games? That's a fair assessment. That is a real thing that needs to be considered. But it is much less likely if the game is in your own backyard, literally an hour or two away, regardless of where you are in the state. You can drive there in one day, under one day, just a few hours. That is much less cost prohibitive for the basic standard college football fan than it is to say, well, we have to get on a plane this week, fly out to California or Arizona or Southern Florida. If you had to factor airfare in plus tickets to every one of these games, yeah, that's quite daunting. But if the game is in your own backyard, odds are a lot higher that your fans are going to be able to foot that bill, come out and support your team. That is what Georgia has in front of them. So if you are someone who believes that playing in the Georgia Dome is essentially a home game for Georgia, if that's what you feel, then this prospect, this possibility has to be very exciting. Because again, let's take a look at the schedule. Not only is Georgia going to play Clemson to open the season in the Dome, but if they are able to navigate what I have said for months now is the most difficult schedule for any team that is considered a legitimate national championship contender. If they are able to make their way through this schedule, get back to the SEC championship game at the end of the season, regardless of who they're playing, that would be game number 2. And based on what we just said, you would expect that they're going to have the home field advantage, the fan advantage in both the Clemson game and in the SEC championship game, regardless of who they play, even if it's Alabama again. We all know that Alabama travels to the Dome and supports their team very well. But still, you have to give the edge to Georgia here, especially given the stakes of everything that would be on the line should the Dogs get there. Because at that point, they're playing to maintain that number 1 overall seed. And if they are able to do that, they would find themselves back in Mercedes-Benz yet again. They will have been there to open the season. They will have been there for the SEC championship game. And then as the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, they would have the opportunity to come back and play the Peach Bowl on New Year's Day at Mercedes-Benz. That would be game number 3. And then, of course, if they win their way through, they could come back and play the national championship game there. Now, all this talk about this brand new playoff in this brand new season deserves a little bit of exploration. We need to take a second and look at it, because even today, there are people that I talk to who don't fully understand what this new 12-team playoff means. So I thought tonight we would walk through it together so that as Georgia is navigating this 12-game schedule, you will know exactly where they are and what they have to do to be able to take advantage of this unbelievable opportunity that they have. So who exactly qualifies for the college football playoff? Well, it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions and the next 7 highest ranked teams that will make the 12-team bracket. There's no limit to how many teams from each conference, okay? So the rules don't guarantee spots for certain conferences, but the champions of the Big 12, SEC, ACC, and Big 10 will almost certainly be in. And then the highest ranked champion from the Mountain West, American Athletic Conference, Sun Belt, Mid-American Conference, or Conference USA would be the other. Now, there is no minimum ranking requirement for the 5 highest ranked conference champions. There could be a conference champion at number 23, for example, but that 5th highest ranked league winner earns a spot in the playoff at the expense of the committee's number 12 team. So that's the general rules, but how does the seeding work? It's the 4 highest ranked conference champions that will earn the top 4 seeds and receive a first round bye. Now, this part is critical if Georgia's going to take advantage of their opportunity to play 4 times in Atlanta this season. The only way to guarantee that they're going to get that choice is if they win out and are the number 1 seed headed into the playoff. The other 8 teams will play in the first round, and the higher seeds hosting the lower seeds on either campus or at other sites designated by the higher seeded institution. But who's not really going to want an on-campus playoff game there in that first round? Yeah, you have to play the extra game, but you are going to have the opportunity to potentially have a game on your own campus in front of your own fans, and that's a big deal for a bunch of reasons. That means that any team that doesn't earn the luxury of a first-round bye will have to win 4 straight games to win the national championship, which is what we were just discussing. If a team loses in its conference championship game and played in 4 straight playoff games, it would have played an unprecedented total of 17 games. So it's unlikely that you're going to have a team go 17-0, because obviously if they're undefeated, they're probably not going to get to play that extra game in the first round. But you could have a team that's 16-1. That is a possibility. Now, this is the most important part of all this as we think about it. Be careful not to confuse the seeding with the election committee's ranking. The 13-member committee will still issue its weekly top 25, so we're still going to see the reveal on Tuesday nights, which will be used to determine the highest-ranked conference champs. That means that, let's use Georgia, that if Georgia wins the SEC and is ranked number 1 by the selection committee and Alabama loses that game and is number 3 in the college football ranking, or even number 2, the Tide will be seeded number 5 behind the 3 other conference champions and Georgia. Now, if you need to, they're asking us to read that again, please. Goes on to talk a little bit about Notre Dame and how they can't earn a first round bye because they can't win a conference title. And if you ask me, that's how it should be. These rules are set up around the conferences, and if you want the benefits of playing in a conference, then you need to get yourself into a conference. Once the teams are seeded on selection day, all seeds are final. They will not be reseeded. I want to touch on this again and give it its own window here and say, do not confuse the selection committee's ranking and what is going to happen in the seeding. So a team can be ranked at number 2, number 3, and still not be one of the top 4 seeds because those seeds will go to a champion. I think that's the point that most people trip up over as they start to think about what this new 12-team playoff is going to look like. So on the whole, we've walked through the qualifications, and you saw the poster earlier that laid out the games for you, but some people prefer to view it in spreadsheet form, and we can walk through it again right here. Because on Friday, December 20th and 21st, that's Saturday, those are going to be your first round games. So those are going to be the teams that did not get the bye. So we're not talking about the top 4 conference champions, right? And then on December 31st, you're going to have one of the playoff games out in the Fiesta Bowl. That's going to be a quarterfinal game. And then on January 1, which falls on a Wednesday this year, you're going to have that Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which is key to this entire discussion for Georgia. They're also going to play the Rose Bowl game that day, as well as the Sugar Bowl that night. And then on Thursday, January 9 and 10, that Friday, you're going to have the 2 semifinal games at the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. And then on January 20, you're going to have the national championship game back here in Atlanta, which is where Georgia would get that 4th game with a home crowd with everything on the line. So the first round games, when you talk about who's going to play what, here's the seeding. Now, I'm not a huge bracket guy, but it does help people make sense of what it is we're talking about. So on that Friday, December 20th and Saturday, the 21st, you're going to be looking at the number 12 playing the number 5, number 9 playing number 8, number 11, number 6, and then number 10 playing number 7. The quarterfinals, which are going to take place on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, has the number 4 seed playing the winner between 12 and 5. The number 1 seed is going to play the winner of 9 and 8. The number 3 seed will play the winner between 11 and 6. And the number 2 seed will play the winner between number 10 and number 7. Which rolls us right into our semifinal matchups, which will take place on January 9th and 10th, again, in the Orange Bowl on the 9th, and then on Friday night in the Cotton Bowl. The winner of those 2 games will then meet in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the national championship. So as you can see, the opportunity is right there for Georgia. They have the very, very rare chance to play not once, not twice in big games where they are almost guaranteed to have home field advantage based on proximity to their campus, but also 2 playoff games. The playoff game in the second round, and then potentially another national championship game right back here in Atlanta, which we all hope is going to turn out a little bit differently than the last time the Dogs played a national championship game here in Atlanta. So any way you cut it, this is a tremendous opportunity for the Georgia Bulldogs. Yes, we know they're going to be a good football team. Yes, we know that they are going to be favored to win both the conference and the national championship. But it's like Cole Kubelik was talking about this week. When people look at the schedule Georgia is going to have to play to actually take advantage of this opportunity, it gives you a little bit of pause, because we're not talking about just lining up against me and my brother out there to try to win these games. This is not in this new era where we have an expanded SEC as well as an expanded Big Ten and Big 12. There are just things that are going to be in play that have not been in play before, including rematches with teams should they both make their way through the season and so on. But as Cole Kubelik pointed out, the schedule that Georgia is going to have to navigate to take advantage of this is the kind of thing that if they were anyone else, if the decal on the side of their helmet was different in any way, then people would look at that and say, man, that's incredible that they were able to navigate that schedule. If they get through it, it's going to be the kind of thing that is going to go down like in lore as an unbelievable accomplishment. But because it's the University of Georgia, and because of what they have managed to do over the last 3 to 4 years, when people look at this, they just sort of wave their hand, and yeah, they acknowledge that this is a tough schedule. By any measure, this is one of the toughest schedules in the country, and by my dictate, this is the most difficult schedule for any team that is a legitimate national championship contender. But because it's Georgia, people will not give them the amount of credit they need. or deserve, they don't need our credit, but they should be recognized if they are able to go through this schedule and navigate it with 1 or 2 losses, or perhaps go undefeated and position themselves to be the overall number 1 seed headed into the playoff, to then take advantage of the opportunities they have in front of them to play in our own backyard. It really will be the kind of thing that should be celebrated and shouted from the rooftops. Because just look at it. Again, there's no point in us looking at who's going to be ranked where or anything like that. Those metrics change during the year. We all know that. The only time you can actually assess strength of schedule and put your weight behind it is at the end of the year. And even having said that, I'm telling you, this is going to be a very difficult schedule for Georgia. Clemson is going to contend in the ACC. Okay? Kentucky is going to be the same sort of hard-nosed Kentucky football team that they always are. Alabama and Auburn are going to be the traditional rivals that they're going to be, but that Alabama game is on the road at night. Not all of these games are created equal. Then the Dogs, after a couple of games at home, have to go on the road to Texas. Texas can play with anybody. And you have to think that, much like we're talking about Georgia having an advantage here in Georgia for these other games, that Texas will have the advantage on the road out there on the 40 acres. Then the Dogs stay on the road for a neutral site game with Florida. We all know you got to throw everything out the window when you play that game, because it is such a rivalry game. And then they stay on the road to go out to Mississippi, where the last time they went in there, they got their nose and their butts absolutely handed to them. They got their nose bloodied and got their tails kicked. That was way back in Kirby's first year. To come back home, the best Tennessee team that Josh Heupel has had should be waiting for them between the hedges. And then, of course, to finish the year, you have Georgia Tech. And Brent Key's been out there making all kinds of noise about how he feels about the University of Georgia football program. So don't think for 1 second that they would not love to step up and ruin everything that Georgia has the potential to do here in 2024. So without a doubt, this is one of the toughest schedules in the country. And if the Dogs navigate it, they deserve a little bit of respect. But respect shouldn't be the only motivating factor. The motivating factor is that you want to be the very best you can be. And this team has the potential to be the very best team in college football in 2024. If they are, then we have to assume that they are going to go out there and take care of Clemson to open the season, that they are going to make their way back to the SEC championship game for game number 2 in the Dome, that they will handle business this year the way they failed to do last year and earn that number 1 seed headed into the playoff, which would then get them game number 3 at Mercedes-Benz. And once you get into the playoff, we all know you're playing a higher caliber of opponent at this point, and they're going to have to earn it. But there is a very real possibility that Georgia could make their way back to the Dome to then play that national championship game in late January. And that's something that we still have to get our heads around too, the fact that we're still going to be playing college football late in January. But any way you cut it, this Georgia Bulldogs team has an opportunity to not only win a national championship, which is a blessing to be able to say, but they are going to have the opportunity to do it in such a grandiose fashion, to do it when the lights are the brightest, on the best stage in college football, which is the opening, one of the opening slots against Clemson in one of those marquee neutral site games. They're going to have the opportunity to come back and participate in the SEC championship game, which Kirby Smart and others have said repeatedly is the best college football sporting event in the country. And then the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. We all know what happened the last time the Dogs were in that. What an exciting game that was. They would have a chance to back that up with another appearance and another victory before coming back and exorcising the demons that still live in that dome from the 2018 national championship game, the last time they were there. So it is, I would dare say, unprecedented what the Dogs have a chance to do here in 2024. Again, it's not just winning, but it's about the way they can possibly go out there and get it done. They will have the opportunity. All eyes will be on the Dogs, and all they have to do is follow through. Make it happen the way we all hope and believe that they can. Something I want to make sure that you guys are aware of so that you can make it happen is my upcoming Ask Me Anything, which is going to be held in the middle of July, right on the heels of SEC Media Days, where we're going to have a ladies only by invitation live stream, where the ladies in your family, the Bulldogs that you know, sisters, mothers, daughters, whoever it is, we all have ladies in our lives that love Georgia. Tell them to come on over, sign up for the newsletter. That's how you gain access. And in doing so, they'll get a pass to come into this live stream, and they're going to have an uninterrupted hour sitting in with me talking all things Georgia Bulldogs football or anything else that they might want to discuss while they're in here. This is the first time I've seen this done inside of Dog Nation, inside the Georgia football community. I want to make sure that all the ladies out there know that this is happening, and I really, really hope we can have a large turnout because I think this is going to be a fantastic event. So please tell your friends, share this information with them, and get them on in here because this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful live stream. We are still on our way to 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. It's been a good week on the channel. Lots of people are joining in, subscribing, following along, and that's what we want. We want you to come be a part of it because during the offseason, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of keeping up with everything Georgia Bulldogs and keeping a different spin on our content here as we're outside the months of the regular season. But we are downhill towards the 2024 football season, and the content is only going to wrap up both in the volume that we're going to have as well as the level of intensity that's involved in creating this content. So I want to make sure that everybody who wants to be a part of the community is aware. Just jump on in here, make sure that you are signed up and subscribed here on the YouTube channel and across all of our social media. This, of course, is the point where I want to make sure we spotlight those individuals who support the channel, go above and beyond in offering support and making sure that we can do the kind of things that we are trying to do here on the channel. And thanks to these individuals and others, we have so many big plans in the works, things that are going to be happening here over the next month or two that I cannot wait to share with you. The latest bit of news is that we're going to be heading out to SEC Media Days again this year. This time it's in Dallas. That means that we got to get on a plane and take ourselves out there, spend a few days in the Lone Star State. You don't get to do that just because they want you to come. You got to pay your way. All that stuff factors in when I'm talking about the people who go above and beyond to support the channel. You help us do things that other channels simply cannot do. So I appreciate it more than I can ever express to you, and I hope that more of you will join the cause and help us fly this flag as high as possible. The Georgia Bulldogs have an unbelievable opportunity here in 2024 as they face their third national championship in 4 years. They have a chance to play in their own backyard 4 separate times. It's not Sanford Stadium, but it's Sanford Stadium adjacent. They're only about an hour or so away from being between the hedges, and there is no reason that Dog Nation should not fill that arena each and every opportunity they have when the red and black lace them up and go out there and fight on behalf of the University of Georgia and try to claim yet another trophy for Kirby Smart's Bulldogs here in 2024. Until next time, you guys take care of yourselves, take care of your friends, take care of your families, and go Dogs.
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.